Welcome, everybody, to the Influencer Podcast coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia today. We're here with an interesting friend of mine, Lisa Ellen Niver, who is the founder of We Said Go Travel. I'm excited to have her on here because she's a fellow scuba diver, a world traveler, a blogger, a lot of talent. So we want to introduce our friend Lisa Niver. Come on in, Lisa.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Dr. Bill.
So good. I'm glad that you could be up early. In California, getting up early is a real chore. I know talking to the East Coast people. So thank you for getting up very early today.
Of course, of course.
And we're right here before New Year's, and I want to wish you a happy New Year and know that what you have planned for the next year, we want to find out about it. And we're really interested in what you're doing for a living. This We Said Go Travel gives us a hint. Tell us about, um, in your experience, what you were doing when you thought about this as a career, what happened, who you were surrounded by, and what inspired you to get into the travel business.
Well, thank you again so much for inviting me, and Happy New Year to all of your listeners. So, for me, I would say the thing that got me really started in a life of travel is when I was a teenager, my parents took my sister and I on a cruise to the Mediterranean. And it seemed like my history books just came to life. We saw the Parthenon in Greece, the pyramids in Egypt, the Western Wall in Israel, and we even went to the library at Ephesus in Turkey. And I was just mesmerized, and I never ever wanted that trip to end. And it really became my path because I worked on cruise ships for nearly 7 years. And over all my travels, backpacking and working on cruise ships, and as a journalist, now I've been to more than 100 countries. And I'd say the most exciting joy for me has been able to make my videos and share my stories from the road. And you asked what's coming up for me next year. So, since 2020 and the great pause, I've been at my desk and not traveling so much, but I've been working on a memoir about these 50 challenges that I did before I turned 50. And I can't wait for your listeners to be able to read it next year when it'll be published and in bookstores.
A book coming out soon would be exciting for all of us, and I'm looking forward to you giving us all the data about how we can get that as we go along in our show today. I know the 50 things that happened to you along the way, some of them had to be pretty tragic if you're talking about travel, because I've done the same thing. There's a lot of tragedy when you're traveling. What's your greatest failure story, and how did you overcome that? What did you learn and recover from it?
Well, I would say my biggest life reinvention was after my marriage imploded. In order to travel for a year with my then husband, I had sold my car, quit my job, rented my condo. And while we were out on the road, I realized that we were both on team husband, 1000% doing things his way. And there was really no space for me. It wasn't too healthy. And I needed a chance to have some space to live my dreams. It was a struggle for me to start again. I felt like a failure, but fortunately, I had so many new goals and new friends. I went back to all my favorite things. I started going to dance class and art class. And that was really the beginning of the 50 Things Project. That was when I decided I had to pick myself up and figure out what was I going to do next.
Well, I can understand that. That's a big challenge. Let's dig into what you think are the top three reasons people fail.
Well, the top three reasons I think of more like mistakes and failure is a hard word because I think that we are so negative about it. But one of the things that I think about a lot is that you just have to start. Like I said, you just have to begin again. I went back to art class. So there's a Chinese proverb that says the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. And the second best time is now. So people always say to me, how do I get started on a blog? Or, you're so big on YouTube, I'm so little, but you have to get started. It's the only way. And once you get started, amazing things can happen. And another mistake I've found is that comparing to other people. So someone else will always have more views or be more famous or have more stuff. And you have to only compare to yourself and think, next year, at the end of the year, do I want to be where I am now, or do I want to have accomplished my goals? And the other thing I think about mistakes more than failure is perfectionism. And that perfectionism kills so many good ideas. So I always, when I was teaching, I always told my students, done is better than perfect. So do your best and try something new. And the other thing is, remember, you're not still in school. You're not getting graded on everything. There's no A plus in suitcase packing. People always say to me, how do you pack your suitcase? I'm like, who cares? Just pack it.
3 good reasons you can be successful that you've just identified, and thank you for that. What do you feel like motivates you internally?
Well, ooh, I got a little feedback there. Are you hearing me okay?
Yeah.
What motivates me internally is I always try to do my best. One of the things when I was out on the road that I missed the most was being able to go to temple and be connected with my Jewish heritage. So since I've been back, one of the most important things to me is that I go to Shabbat services on Friday night and I participate in a community. I think that having people around you, a strong community, really makes a difference.
I totally agree. Being spiritually connected is a key thing that you should never lose in your life. 3 success secrets that you can share with other people that they can model from about what you do.
So I'd say one of my top secrets is something that you already brought up is about scuba diving. And so once I learned to scuba dive, I was enthralled. I wanted to be underwater. I wanted to go on exotic trips. And I really changed my whole life. That's when I first started working at Club Med and on cruise ships so that I could have someone else pay for my travels and explore all of the underwater creatures. So I'd say one secret to my success has been to follow my passions. Another secret, like we talked about, is having faith. Like you need to believe in yourself. And someone once sent me this quote from Martin Luther King Jr. that said, you don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step. And I think that is what happens is you put it out in the universe what you want to do, and you have to build the steps along the way. And another person that told me about small steps was, I don't know if you know Gabby Natale. I got to interview her, and she's a 3-time Emmy Award winner. She does amazing projects on television, and she told me starting small does not mean thinking small. So you might do a little step now, like maybe you put up your first YouTube video, or you join a new social media, or you write your first blog, and it seems like nothing will ever happen and no one is listening, but it all gains its own momentum.
So many success secrets built into that answer. Thank you for sharing that, Lisa. Wonderful. Your motto for your company, for your book, for your life, what would it be?
Well, for We Said Go Travel, it's always been about bringing people together and building a global community. And my book is a lot about what I've been talking about, taking small steps and finding courage and really believing in myself.
I really want to read that book. Got to share it. What about your ideal client? How do you find people who relate to you and your blogs and your books?
Well, one of the ways I'm looking forward to connecting with new people, next year I'm going to be speaking in 4 different cities for the Travel and Adventure Show. In January, I'll be speaking in Chicago and New York. In February in Los Angeles, and very early April in Dallas. But I want to come visit you in Atlanta because I've never been to Atlanta.
Oh, you got to come see the world of Coca-Cola, Stone Mountain, and CNN Center. All they're right here in Atlanta.
I want to.
Let's talk about your ideal client. How do you find them?
People are finding me mostly through social media. So I have a presence across social media, and people reach out to me. I get comments on my YouTube, on my LinkedIn, and that's how I really make the best connections.
Yeah. And do you have well-defined products and services that you do offer?
I do. I've been before. I've shifted a little bit during COVID, but before COVID, when I was traveling almost 50 or 75% and making a lot of videos, that was one of the main things that I was working with destinations about creating video content.
And were you a brand ambassador for any products?
I have been. I did a satellite media tour for Hilton Garden Inn. I did another satellite media tour for one of the destinations that was in the TV show Big Little Lies. So that's what I've done. I have a few other things that I haven't quite signed the deal on because people want to be involved with the travel adventure show since I'm speaking at 4 of the 8 shows. So I'm hoping after the holidays, when people come back to their desks, there'll be a little more ink in the signatures.
Excellent. Why would somebody buy something from you and become one of your clients?
Well, I'd say the biggest thing that people were going to buy from me next year is my book. And I'm hopeful that people find it inspiring and a roadmap of how I dug myself out. I felt like I was pretty deep in a ditch and had to climb back up. So I think early readers have been telling me that is true. So I hope that resonates with a lot of people, whether, like me, they were getting divorced or maybe they had some other kind of tragedy, a loss. I think that people feel a great loss. We've had a lot of people during this ongoing roller coaster of COVID changing jobs, changing cities. It's been a lot of reinventing for so many people.
So you have a lot of books out there. How do you show up and crush your competition when you put a book out?
Well, I think that there's room for everybody. There's so many good stories, but I'd say what I think will be the secret sauce for me is that I have this vibrant YouTube channel. So I'm over 1.7 million views now, and by the time thanks, I agree. It's. I tell people it's not just me and my mom anymore. That's a lot more than just the two of us watching, and so I hope that'll builds its own, keep on keeping on. And I've done some great interviews. I got to interview Deepak Chopra, and so hopefully I'll get more people to interview, and I'll have more stuff from the book. So I'll keep you posted.
I hope our viewers will at least join your YouTube and also buy a book. So another million hopefully will join you just because you're on this show.
Well, Dr. Bill, that would be amazing. I would call you the new Oprah. So that would be great.
Yeah, new Oprah. I could go with that. Let's see. How do you handle objections, Lisa?
That is an excellent question because
Rejections, not objections. Rejections.
as as a journalist, I get a lot of rejections. I one of the main things, like when I'm pitching a story, I've been pitching this story recently, probably I think 14 people have already said no to it. And I have a really close friend from my writing group, and we talk regularly. And I'll say, "Oh my gosh, no one wants this story." And she'll say, "No, it's just the wrong editor, or it's just the wrong time.
Yeah.
Don't give up." And I'm like, you know what? Maybe it is time to give up on this. No, don't give up. So I think one of the things that I do is I talk to my people and get a check in and say, what's the next plan of attack? So try to get more information and figure out what is the best plan to do next.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. And do you ever have an angry client that you have to deal with?
I'd say one of my favorite stories about people not being happy was when I used to work on the cruise ship. I was senior assistant cruise director, and we were in a port, and the harbor master closed the port. And I was standing on the gangway, and a gentleman was standing next to me, and he said, "Why won't you let me on the boat? I want to go ashore." And he had been yelling at me for some time now, like 15 minutes. And I looked at him, I said, "Trust me, sir, if I could put you on the boat, I would." And I actually would have opened the door and let him go in the water after 20 minutes. But I think the best thing to do is try to help people understand you hear them. When I worked on the cruise ship, and things would go wrong as they did, once we were in a hurricane, sometimes we were out of whatever they wanted, sometimes a tour got canceled, things go wrong. And we always wanted to look at the people and say, you know what, at night, we go below deck and we all sit together and brainstorm how to ruin your vacation. It's like people forget that they're yelling at the people who are trying to actually help them. And so the best thing I can do is try to really stay calm. I think about during COVID, I took a bunch of classes at UCLA, and I took a great meditation class. And I just try to always think, this too shall pass.
Yes, I agree with that. Being a dentist, I've seen a few of those patients come in, and you never know what's going to show up in front of you.
Do not.
Tell us about your 5-star experience that you helped create.
Well, I'd say the 5-star experience I've been creating with my articles is something I learned in my writing group. My writing group's called UPOD, which stands for Under Promise, Over Deliver. And I'll often tell people when I'm turning in a story that it's 60 days, but I try to do 30 days. And I always put so many extras in. So I put things all across my social media. Right now, I've been doing my video reels on Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, YouTube. What's that one? LinkedIn. And I've been adding my stories also on Medium. So I try to create extra value.
Excellent. Well, I can see that will go a long way, and your experience will turn them into brand ambassadors as they go along. So how do you convert those people?
One of the things that I've learned, I've been watching one of my favorite authors, Alka Joshi. Her book was a Reese Witherspoon Hello Sunshine book. And she was a New York Times bestseller. And one of the things I know she did was every single person that wrote to her, she wrote back. And every single book club she was invited to, she appeared. During COVID, it was often virtual. But I think she might have done more book clubs than days of the year the first year. I mean, I think it was well over 300, and it was incredible. So that groundswell, showing up, I think makes such a huge difference.
Great suggestion, and I think one that everyone listening should follow. Be present, be available. How would you say is your feeling today about what you've been through in the year 2022? What are you grateful for having happened here?
Well, it has been, if someone told me how hard it would have been to write this book, I definitely would not have done it. And I've been very fortunate with all of the challenges that my friends and family have really shown up for me. There were times writing this book that I would write until I was pretty sure I was going to throw up, and then I would lie on the floor. And I have one friend, I wish I had took, like the hash marks of how many times I called her and said, I'm quitting, I'm done, it's over. And I
Yeah.
told her that story, and she said, it doesn't matter how many times you quit. It matters that you finish.
How many times you get up and start again?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah,
That's
I've
actually
written
one of.
two. You have more books than you, I can tell you, because I've written 2 books, and there's another one somewhere in there. So they will keep coming out.
How did you keep going, Dr. Bill?
I had a whole new revelation of something that was important, and I told my dental friends, I said, "You got to hear this. This is too important to miss."
Okay.
Sometimes you just get a bubbling over of what's going on, and you can't not share it.
All right. Well, I'll keep you posted.
All right. So let's talk about how you're going to achieve your goal. How are you going to achieve your goal?
How am I going to
Getting
achieve?
that book sold to 1,400,000 people.
Oh. Well, I heard that you're getting me 1 million new YouTube followers. So that's step one. Thank you very much. I love that idea. I told you I'm going to be speaking at the 4 travel and adventure shows in 2023 so far. And I have a really lovely network of other journalists, a few of whom have already invited me to do stories with them when the book comes out. And I'm just going to keep every single day taking my little steps forward and keep publishing my articles and just see what opportunities come to me to share my story.
Good plan. My number one suggestion is pick a day that you're going to launch
Yes.
and set up a team that is going to promote it on that one day, because that'll get it to the top of Amazon immediately.
Okay, well, I do have a publisher for my book, so I will let them know that that is a good idea. I will have a publishing date, and I will, yes, kind of bring
Friends,
everyone together on the same day.
friends help you a lot when you have one day to be a friend.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. I will do that.
How would you feel if you didn't make your goal?
Oh, listen, like I said, I quit this project. I don't know if it's 1,000 times or 1 million times, but I felt when I very first started 50 things before I was 50, I knew I might not make it to 50. And I was okay with that. I just wanted to start. I had read Luann Kahn's book, and she did 365 things in 365 days. So I knew I could do 50 if she did 365. So I tried to take a deep breath and be realistic.
I like it. That's a good thing to do. Don't stop going.
Don't stop. Don't stop.
You overcome a challenge that life throws at you.
Oh my gosh, I've had a lot of challenges because I've had to reinvent myself so many times. I had originally gone to med school and I dropped out and became a teacher. And then when I was working on the cruise ship after 9/11, my company went bankrupt. I already told you I restarted after my divorce. So basically, how I overcome a challenge is just never give up. I think about this Chinese proverb that says, fall down 7, get up 8. And, it might not be very pretty. I don't think it's always that graceful, but there's not a lot of other choices. You just have to keep going and going and going.
So, if you have this challenge and then you come up with a solution, maybe it's a revenue generating idea. How do you convince your significant other, your friends, your partner, whoever is your confidant? How do you suggest that they let you go and do this thing?
So, um, growing up, I had a problem with my eyes. It didn't get diagnosed until my 40s. And so when I finally was clear on what was wrong, I had a lot of vision therapy. And so one of the things I know is that there's things I don't see. And it's much better now. But the way I've always managed that is to have a council of advisors, that people that understand different things, that see things different ways. So if I have a new idea like this book or something for my YouTube, or who knows, maybe someday I'll have a podcast like you, I would go to them and say, what do you
Yeah.
think? How can we talk about this? Because I need that network so that I can see the things that don't always occur to me right away.
If you have a blind spot, it does help to have advisors, literally
Yes.
or figuratively. So, good point. I like that. What advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Whew. Okay, so I think what I would tell my younger self is don't worry so much. And I would also probably say our life is really like a roller coaster. There's ups, there's downs, and there's a whole bunch of time. That part of the roller coaster where you're upside down and it feels like you're falling out, but we have a seatbelt on. So don't worry, because in the end, everything will work out really great.
Hold on. Just don't let go.
Don't let go. Don't give up. Never give up.
So, do you have a mentor, and how are they impacting you right now?
um, I have been very, very fortunate to have mentors in my life. I had an incredible teacher in high school, and I had an amazing principal when I was teaching in public school. And they made such a difference for me just to see how did they walk the walk, that they would give me advice that they were actually doing. And I felt like that's so helpful for me to see how they overcame their challenges. Like I could come to them and say, this is never going to work. And I'm like, I can understand how you would feel that way. Let me tell you how I did it.
Mentors are important. I like that. What
Mm-hmm.
about your impact on the world? How do you feel like what you're doing will impact, and why is it important to you?
Again, I think one of the things I think about being impactful when I was first starting to grow on Twitter and some of the other social media, I remember speaking to one of the rabbis at my temple, and he said to me, it's nice to be an influencer, but you have to influence something or in some way. And we talked a lot about being grateful and having grace and sharing happiness, that there's so many people online, and a lot of the news that you see day to day is so negative and dark, and that we have a choice that we could lift people up with our stories and be more positive. There are amazing things happening. I have a story that was very hard to sell. This small group in Fiji on an island literally brought the Fijian crested iguana back from the brink of extinction. And I thought that was going to be the easiest story I ever sold. And it was not. So I really try hard to bring these uplifting stories where people are making a difference and share them.
I don't think people realize that an entrepreneur like yourself has to be relevant and has to be present in the moment to impact the world. You can't just float around doing nothing. You got to actually sell stories and go places. That's great. How do you want to be remembered, Lisa?
Oh, that's such a good question. Well, I would like to be remembered for some of the stories that I've brought about, just like I said, the people making a difference and building bridges of cultural understanding. I was lucky enough to be invited to the Solomon Islands. It was 5 years ago now for the 75th anniversary of the Battle of Guadalcanal, and there was an incredible story about President Kennedy when he was in the military and his boat was sunk, and the whole story about how he got helped, and he carved a message in a coconut, and when he was president he had that coconut on his desk of the people that rescued him. And I just think, the power of community is really important.
Is it PT 109?
Yes, it is. Exactly. Yeah, I went to Kennedy Island.
Very outstanding. I pulled that number out of my head somehow.
Good job. That's You could write the story.
So tell us, Lisa, how can we support you? We're talking about, any links you want to talk about, or
So the best way to find me is online. I have, as Dr. Bill mentioned, my website, We Said Go Travel. And then I have a second site, a portfolio site called lisaniver.com, which is, as of today, a little bit under construction because it's getting ready to promote my book. You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Medium at Lisa Niver. And I would just love for people to connect with me. I have a newsletter, and the best way to know when it's time to pre order my book, it'll be in my newsletter and across my social media. And again, I invite you, I have a discount code for the travel and adventure shows. If you're going to be in Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, or Dallas, I'd love to meet you in person at the Travel and Adventure Show.
well, that is a lot of ways to connect, and I think people should definitely do that. I know I will. What is your expression about being on our show today?
Well, Dr. Bill, I'm so honored that you found me. And we didn't even get to talk yet about our dental connection. My dad is also a dentist. And
Mhm.
I think one of the most important things that dentists can share is that people always ask dentists, do I have to floss all my teeth? And I know my dad says the same thing as you, only the ones you want to keep, only those. And I think it's really a good life lesson that whatever we focus on, that's what flourishes. So if you like to keep all your teeth, you have to brush and floss them all. Just like if you want to grow your business every single day, you have to plant those seeds and water them. And I saw this funny story where it was said, it was like a picture. Someone had planted the seeds and then was standing over them yelling, grow. Like it takes time. You have to be patient.
I'm going to give you the last word. And what would you like to say to our?
So I think that it's an important time of year, this darkest time of the year in the northern hemisphere, and every culture has a festival of lights. And during Hanukkah, when we light the candles, I always think about how the leader candle, we use one candle to light all the other candles, and it does not diminish the flame. So make sure to share your light with other people. Check on your friends and family, hug them close, and tell them that you love them. Thank you so much, Dr. Bill, for having me on your show.
Oh, you're welcome. Totally welcome. Good to see you, Lisa. Sharing stories with a world traveler such as yourself really brings me back to many of the days that I backpacked through Europe and all the cruises I've been on, all the wonderful directors of cruises that I interfaced with. It's something that I've come to love and enjoy. So I did enjoy spending time with you today, remembering all those and hearing about your adventures. I'm looking forward to your book. I'm looking forward to all my listeners picking that book up and traveling through her life. 50 things you should do before you.
we haven't totally revealed the title yet. It's coming soon in 2023, but it does have 50 challenges before I turn 50.
50 challenges before you reach 50. Okay, I'm looking forward to that. Thanks for being on our show, Lisa.
Thank you.
Hey, it's Dr. Bill Williams on the Influencer Podcast, and we certainly had an influencer on today, Lisa Niver's the Diver, and she is a world traveler of note and a TV host. So, it's good to be in the same boat. When you've got a Lisa in the boat, you can end up in the right place every time. Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you soon on the next podcast.